and I'm equally deeply honored to be introduced by you. And what you just said, like, what can we do in response to this propaganda machinery, which has been unleashed and which is by far the most impressive propaganda machinery that has ever been unleashed in the history of mankind. Well, you know, I've been talking so much about the phenomenon of mass formation and totalitarianism throughout the last few years, focusing on what happens in a population which falls prey to propaganda, and focusing on how we can understand how an entire population goes mad and buys into the most absurd beliefs you can imagine. And I'm focusing now on much more on the psychology of totalitarian leadership and on the psychology of propaganda itself. What guys do we have to do with, and in particular, what can we do? Because that's the most important thing, of course. What can we do? And I do believe that the better you understand the nature of propaganda, the more you see that counter-propaganda is not an option. If you use counter-propaganda in response to propaganda, you're actually slowly going to the same level as the people you try to fight, because you also lose touch with sincerity. You also lose touch with the ethical principles of humanity. And that's the big question we have to ask ourselves. And I was really touched by what Senator Johnson just said. It's, as far as I remember, it's the first time that I hear someone say that freedom is important, but that there is something that is even more important than freedom, and that it is truth. And I think that's really right. That's really right, because freedom, there is no absolute freedom for a human being. A human being can be free to a certain extent, but it will always be subjected, if it wants it or not, to the eternal ethical principles of humanity. If we lose touch with that, freedom is worth nothing. And these ethical principles, these principles of humanity, we can get in touch with them by speaking sincere, by speaking truthful, truth speech. And that again, I agree again with Senator Johnson when he said that it is very hard to know for a human being what truth is. What is truth, actually? It's very hard to determine that. If we think we can possess the truth, we lost it already. We can feel it for a moment, resonate with it, articulate truthful words, but that's it. We can never possess it. And that's actually what I'm doing now. I'm focusing on the one hand on propaganda, and on the other hand I try to understand as well as possible, psychologically speaking, what truth is. What is truth? Is truth a kind of speech? Is truth a kind of words that refer in the correct way to facts? I don't think so. I don't think so. Even a joke can be truthful if it is articulated at the right moment, and the joke has no reference to facts. Truth speech, we can only define truth in reference to something completely different than the facts. Truth speech is this kind of speech which penetrates through the veil of appearances, which destroys lies, which destroys fake, which destroys what I like to call the veil of appearances. And we can do that at every moment in our existence. Every day we have a chance to speak truthful and sincere in so many occasions. And every time we do so, even if it is about a minor detail of life, every time we do so, we go through the veil of appearances that isolates people from each other. We go through the veil of our own ego, and we establish a resonating bond between the soul of two human beings. That's why truth speech makes the soul of a human being emerge from behind his ego. That's where we create a human bond, and that's where we create resilience to propaganda. We can do so at 100 times a day, or at least 10 times a day, and every time we create a human bond between two souls. We make the bond between the soul of two human beings stronger. And that's the historical revolution we are witnessing now. It's a historical revolution, the metaphysical revolution, where a mass, that is in the grip of propaganda is slowly getting weaker than a group connected through sincere speech. The more we realize that, the more we understand that we have to do our best to learn the art of sincere speech, because I believe it's really an art. It's an art we can learn. In Belgium and Holland, I give these workshops. About 300 people followed them by now, in which we practice for 4 days straight the art of truth speech. And I encourage people to continue to practice it after it, because it is like every art, we have to practice it our entire lives. But the more we understand that that's what will be decisive, the oldest act of humanity, speaking in a sincere way, will be what ultimately overcomes the most impressive propaganda machinery mankind has ever known. We will do it together, and I'm happy to do it with you people. Bye-bye.